What's going on, Tamers? King of Hearts here, and a lot of you probably don't know this, but I'm actually a really big fan of Gundam. Late 90s and early 2000s Gundam series had such a huge influence on me. In fact, so much so, in fact, that my online handle name East actually comes from a Gundam series. I tell you all of this because I've actually been trying out the new Gundam card game created by Bandai in these past couple of days, and I've actually had quite a bit of fun with it. It's really interesting to see them create this strange Chimeramon of all of their card games in one. Like, it's got the resource cards from the, One Piece and the Dawns, it's got the burst cards, like from Battle Spirits, and it's also got source cards from Digimon where you can link the unit and the pilot. If I can liken it to any card game experience that I've had in the past, it feels somewhat similar to Shadowverse Evolve, which I dabbled in quite a bit last year. When you've been playing one card game for so long, Digimon, you really feel that learning curve of trying to wrap your head around a new game, and with Gundam that's definitely been the vibe. I've got the extra bonus of doing this in Japanese, a language which is not my mother tongue, and so there's that added extra difficulty spike. Nihongo Jozu. I know. To exacerbate things a little bit more, Gundam's keywords and effect text are all like robot or Gundam coded, where, let me give you an example. So for example, the Japanese on-play equivalent in Gundam is on deploy, or in Japanese, haibasuru. And a lot of these new vocabulary are just not words you're going to encounter in everyday language, so it feels like every match is kind of like a pop quiz. I tell you all of these things because it had me visiting the Gundam website a whole lot to just keep rereading the rules and going over the in-depth mechanics for effects and lots of the card text over and over this past week. And while I was doing this and just exploring the website in general, I spotted something that was really interesting that I kind of wish that Digimon would do. And no, it's not some keyword or some effect I wish they would add to the game. It's actually something more within the meta of the game that I wish they would change. And that is, they allow the use of English cards in Southeast Asia. For the folks who are blissfully unaware, countries like Malaysia, Singapore, the Philippines, and Hong Kong have to use the Japanese versions of the cards, which for regions that speak predominantly more English than Japanese, this seems like a really strange choice. Keep in mind that Gundam is actually not the first Bandai card game to make this change. I think that honor, at least as far as I can remember, goes to our pirate overlords in One Piece. But what really makes me excited about Gundam getting this same treatment is that now it's a pattern and not just a one-off thing. Bandai's been focusing on and growing their card game influence since 2020 when Digimon had its initial debut, and with its success, alongside striking gold with games like One Piece and other games like Union Arena and now Gundam, a pattern is starting to emerge for them starting to streamline a lot of their processes between the different card games. I think homogenize might be a better word to use, but I think that word gets really negatively coded for a lot of people. But in this case, I think it's actually a good thing where they're starting to streamline a lot of the features around games so that they're all the same. For example, the Digimon card game recently got simultaneous world release this year, and actually at the World Championships last year, back in March, World Championships time, whenever that was. Time is weird. We got the announcement for One Piece that in 2026 their game would be simultaneous world release also. And it looks like from the get-go, Gundam is going to be on that track as well. And there's a lot of positives for all these games following a single world format, where you've got simplified release schedules because everything comes out on the same day everywhere. It's much easier to hit the ban list without hitting your bottom line, as we saw back in BT15 when a Pokemon got hit in the Japanese version of the game before it came out in the English version of the game and tanked the sales for that set, which means Bandai gets to save their bottom line, but it also means that there's just a more healthy and lively development of the meta across the world instead of just in Asia and then X copy in the West. I hope that the streamlining of the different set releases for all of Bandai's games does mean that it's a start for other changes to come. I do want to pump the brakes a little bit and be really clear about what I'm hoping happens here, and I think there's a group of people who see these changes and hope it's a trend toward allowing any card of any language in any event of any region in the future, and that's not exactly what I'm advocating for. I'm happy this change is happening in SEA, the Southeast Asia region, because they just have way more English speakers than Japanese speakers, and for new folks just trying to get into the game, it's way easier to pick it up. My goal here is just to get more people into the game, and by removing the language barrier, this advances that. I worry that when the Digimon card game came out, or people have seen it for the first time in these areas, they see that the cards are in Japanese and they just immediately check out. I think there's some folks out there who might say, well, East, if you look at Magic the Gathering, they allow any card of any language to be used in any event around the world, and I think we have to stop doing this apples-to-apples comparison of games like Digimon and games like Magic or Pokemon, where because of the history, size, and player base, it's just not the same. Magic has this long history with a huge player base, so they don't really need to prove themselves in the market. They've already done that. And I want that for Digimon, but we're just not there yet. My worry is that if we port over Magic System and use it in Digimon, it would just make the most sense for players to buy cards from the cheapest region. And with how absolute dog shit the yen is right now, that is Japan. This means lower sales for regional card shops, and then it just seems like a slippery slope down to less product being carried overall into dwindling support for the game, which I definitely don't want to happen. So then you're probably asking, well, East, why is this okay for Southeast Asia but not for America or Europe or LATAM? And you're probably not going to be very satisfied with my answer. And that's because we technically already let Pandora out of the box, and it's really hard to put it back in at this point. Like, we can't just alienate all of the players who invested in the game when it was Japanese only, and then just say, hey, can you just buy your whole collection all over again in English, please? If I had a time machine that can go back to Digimon's debut, and I was also John Bandai so I could pull the levers for the game, I definitely would have made the SEA region English only. Pokemon does that, and I don't think there's a lot of outcry or problems with that system at all. And so I would be okay with the SEA region using Japanese and English cards for Digimon. Although there is one thing that I do kind of worry about, and I guess we can see how this pans out with One Piece and Gundam, and that is, what if players get a little bit shifty with card languages in events, like in actual tournaments? So I actually wrote out this idea because I wanted to flesh out what I was thinking. So for example, let's imagine they allow English cards and Japanese cards in your SEA Digimon event, and you're playing with an English deck, and you speak English, and your opponent speaks English, but they're playing with a Japanese deck. What if you don't remember the exact text of all the cards? Whose responsibility does that become? I think Magic has a system where if you use cards that are not of the event's main language, you have to bring a printout with all of your cards' effects on them. And so I think it's the responsibility of the player who has the other language cards. But then you also don't want to give away what your entire deck is, so you would have to print them out, like, I guess on like postcard size like bits, and then like hand them to your opponent as they would read them. It feels weird to just give them like the entire page, like set of pages with everything in it. And it's like, flip to this page and check this effect, because they could look at the other cards like, oh, he has this in the deck, so I gotta be careful. Alongside that, then they could just also put in cards that aren't in the deck, and then suddenly we have this whole like bluffing meta game about what they've included in like the non-main language specific cards, and then they could also like go even crazier and like change the effect text so that it reads weirdly or you don't understand it correctly, and you kind of just go along with it. There's just so many headaches I feel like with this system. I guess as long as there are like really harsh rules in place to dissuade this kind of behavior, like I'm talking like just like DQ immediately if you do something like this in an event, I guess it's okay. I don't have a whole lot of experience with this kind of thing, so if you folks out there have, definitely put them down and let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Anyway, I'm just happy to see that One Piece's regional language rules isn't a one-off thing, and with Gundam following suit, maybe in the near future we can have Digimon do the same. You know, maybe a World Championship announcement might not be too much to ask. Fingers crossed. Oh, I don't think I'll be covering the Gundam card game on this channel. I definitely have been having a lot of fun playing it, and if you folks out there have given it a try, let me know what your experience has been like in the comments below. Anyways, folks, I'm gonna get out of here. Before you get out of here, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care. Also, I have a message for all of the Gundam Witch of Mercury players out there. Y'all nasty.